It was exactly 12:07 a.m. when the knock came. Not loud. Not urgent. Just 3 soft, careful taps, like whoever stood outside wasn't sure they should be there at all. I was half asleep on my couch, TV still glowing with some late-night news I hadn't been watching. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. Nobody knocks on doors after midnight unless something's wrong. Then it came again. I stood, heart beating faster than it should have, and walked to the door of my small Chicago apartment. I didn't look through the peephole right away. I don't know why, maybe instinct, maybe fear. When I finally did, my breath caught. It was her. My boss. Standing in the dim hallway light, coat pulled tight around her shoulders, eyes tired, mascara slightly smudged. The woman who ruled boardrooms and budgets like a general now looked small. Vulnerable. I opened the door without thinking. "Ms. Carter?" I said. "Is everything okay?" She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I stay tonight?" A pause. "I have nowhere else to go." Emily Carter wasn't the kind of woman who showed up unannounced at midnight. She was the CEO of the marketing firm I worked for, sharp, composed, always 5 steps ahead. In the 2 years I'd worked under her, I'd never seen her flinch, never heard her voice shake. And yet here she was. I stepped aside. "Of course. Come in." She hesitated, like she was crossing a line she'd spent her whole life defending. Then she walked in, slowly, and the door closed behind her with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She looked around, my modest living room, the mismatched furniture, the framed photos from places I couldn't afford to visit again. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly. "I know this is inappropriate." "You don't have to explain," I replied, though I desperately wanted one. She removed her coat, folded it neatly, like she was still trying to keep control of something. Her hands trembled just a little. "I didn't know where else to go," she admitted. That sentence changed everything. I made tea. It felt like the safest thing to do, neutral, harmless, human. She sat at my small kitchen table, shoulders slumped, staring at nothing. When I placed the mug in front of her, she looked up, surprised. "Thank you." For a long moment, she didn't drink it. Finally, she spoke. "I left my husband tonight." I didn't say anything. "We've been separated for months," she continued. Quietly. "Legally still married. Publicly perfect." She laughed bitterly. "But tonight it finally ended." Her eyes glistened. "He told me I was impossible to love. That my job mattered more than he ever did." I felt something tighten in my chest. "That's not true," I said without thinking. She met my gaze, really looked at me this time. "You don't know me," she said. "I know you work harder than anyone I've ever met," I replied. "And that doesn't make you unlovable." Silence fell between us, heavy, fragile. She finally took a sip of tea. "I went to a hotel," she said. Everyone was booked. There was a convention in town. I sat in my car for an hour, wondering who I could call. She hesitated. "You were the only name that felt safe." That word, safe, hung in the air. I was painfully aware of the reality: she was my boss. This was complicated. Dangerous, even. "I can sleep on the couch," she said quickly. "I won't be any trouble." "You can take the bed," I said. "I'll manage." She shook her head. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not." She studied me, like she was trying to figure out who I really was outside office hours. "You're different here," she said softly. "So are you." For the first time that night, a faint smile touched her lips. We talked. Not about work. Not about deadlines or campaigns. She told me about growing up in Ohio, about how she learned early that being strong meant being alone. I told her about my father, about moving to the city with nothing but ambition and student loans. The clock crept toward 2 a.m. At some point, she laughed, a real laugh, surprised by its own existence. I forgot what it feels like to just talk, she said. To be human? I offered. Yes. She leaned back in the chair, exhaustion finally winning. I don't want this night to end, she admitted quietly. Not in a romantic way, she added quickly, then paused. Well, not only that. My heart skipped. Emily, I said gently. It was the first time I'd ever used her first name. We should be careful. She nodded. I know. But neither of us moved. When she finally stood, she looked unsteady. I offered my arm, and she took it without hesitation. In the hallway outside the bedroom, she stopped. Thank you, she said. For not asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. She looked up at me. Too close now. Close enough to see the faint freckles on her nose. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then she stepped back. Good night, she said. Good night. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, every thought a question I couldn't afford to ask. Sunlight filled the apartment far too early. The smell of coffee pulled me from half-sleep. I sat up to find Emily in the kitchen, hair loose, wearing one of my oversized hoodies. She froze when she saw me. I hope you don't mind, she said. I couldn't find my blouse. You look fine, I said, then immediately regretted how that sounded. She smiled anyway. For a moment, everything felt normal. Easy. Then reality returned. I'll take a few days off, she said. Personal leave. Take all the time you need. She hesitated at the door. Last night, she said, meant more than you know. So did it to me, I replied. She nodded, then left. At work, she was professional. Polite. Distant. But sometimes, in meetings, our eyes met, and something unspoken passed between us. Late one evening, a week later, she stopped by my desk. Are you free? She asked. Always, I said. She smiled, soft, certain. Then maybe this time, she said, I knock before midnight. That night had changed us. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Trust. Vulnerability. Two people seeing each other without titles or expectations. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly. At midnight. With a knock on the door. And nowhere else to go. The hardest part wasn't that Emily Carter went back to being my boss. It was how perfectly she did it. Monday morning arrived like nothing had ever happened. She walked into the office in her tailored navy blazer, heels clicking against marble floors, posture straight, expression unreadable. The woman who had stood in my apartment at midnight, lost, exhausted, human, was gone. Or at least, that's what everyone else saw. From my desk, I noticed the small things. The way her eyes lingered a fraction too long when she passed by. The way she tightened her grip on her coffee mug during meetings. The way she avoided being alone in elevators. And the way my name stayed on her calendar far longer than it needed to. She kept it professional. Impeccable. Almost cold. Emails instead of conversations. Meetings with other managers present. No late-night calls. No personal check-ins. It hurt more than I expected. Not because I thought we were something, but because we had been real for one night. And now that reality was being buried under titles and policies. On Wednesday evening, just as I was packing up, my inbox pinged. Emily Carter, 6:41 p.m. Can you stay a few minutes? Conference Room B. My pulse spiked. Conference Room B was quiet at that hour. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline, lights blinking like distant stars. She was already there when I arrived. Standing. Not sitting. That alone told me this wasn't about work. She didn't turn around right away. "I've been unfair to you," she said, still facing the window. "I don't think you've done anything wrong," I replied. She exhaled slowly. "That's the problem." She turned to face me. "I don't know how to act around you without crossing a line, or pretending the line doesn't exist." Silence settled between us. "I'm not asking for anything," I said. "I just don't want to feel like last week didn't matter." Her eyes softened. "It mattered," she said. "More than I planned for." She took a step closer. "But I'm terrified," she admitted. "Terrified that if I let myself feel anything, I'll lose the one thing I've always controlled, my career." I nodded. "And I'm terrified of being a mistake you regret." That stopped her cold. She reached out, then pulled her hand back, clenching it instead. "You weren't a mistake," she said firmly. "You were a reminder." "Of what?" "That I'm still capable of needing someone." We made a deal that night, unspoken, but understood. No public moments. No favoritism. No promises. Just honesty. Sometimes that honesty looked like lingering glances across conference tables. Sometimes it looked like shared Uber rides after late client dinners, separate seats, charged air. Once, during a presentation, her hand brushed mine as we passed notes. It felt louder than a kiss. People always notice before you think they will. Whispers followed us through hallways. Not accusations, just curiosity. "She's different lately. He's getting more responsibility. They work well together." Emily heard it too. One afternoon, she called me into her office and shut the door. "HR asked if we're involved," she said bluntly. My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "That my personal life isn't their concern." She paused. "But they won't stop looking." I swallowed. "Then maybe we should stop." The words tasted like defeat. She stared at me, jaw tight. "Is that what you want?" "No," I said immediately. "But I don't want to cost you everything." She walked around her desk, stopping inches from me. "I built everything by being alone," she said quietly. For the first time, I'm wondering if that was the wrong victory. Her hand rested lightly on my arm. Not inappropriate. Not obvious. But enough. It happened during a business trip to New York. Separate rooms. Separate schedules. But at 11:48 p.m., my phone vibrated. "Emily, are you awake?" I hesitated before replying. "Me, yes." A minute later, there was a knock on my hotel room door. History repeating itself. She stood there, not desperate this time, but unsure. "I couldn't sleep," she said. And I didn't trust myself alone. I let her in. We sat on opposite sides of the bed, shoes off, city lights spilling through the window. "This is dangerous," she said. "Yes." She turned to me. "If I stay, I don't know if I'll be strong." I met her eyes. "Then don't stay." She didn't move. Instead, she leaned her forehead against my shoulder. And for the first time, I wrapped my arm around her. We stayed like that all night. No kisses. No promises. Just two people holding on to something fragile. Back in Chicago, everything shifted. She requested a board transfer, one that would remove her from direct authority over my department. Risky. Bold. When I asked her why, she smiled softly. "I'm tired of running from the one thing that feels real." A week later, she handed in the paperwork. And that night, when she knocked on my door again, it wasn't midnight. She wasn't lost. And this time, she knew exactly why she was there. Love doesn't begin when rules disappear. Sometimes it begins when someone is brave enough to change them. And sometimes, the most powerful woman in the room just needs a place where she isn't the boss. I met him on a Thursday evening. I didn't plan to. Emily and I were leaving the office together, careful, as always, a few steps apart, when her phone rang. One look at the screen and all the color drained from her face. "It's him," she said. I already knew who him was. "Do you want me to wait?" I asked. She hesitated. Then, quietly, "Yes." She answered the call, her voice controlled but tight. "I told you not to come here." A pause. "No. This is my workplace." Another pause, longer. "Fine." She hung up and closed her eyes. "He's downstairs," she said. "In the lobby." I felt my jaw tighten. "Do you want me there?" She looked at me, not as a boss, not as a woman in control, but as someone who needed support. "Yes," she said. The lobby smelled of polished marble and expensive cologne. He stood near the security desk like he belonged there. Tall. Well-dressed. Confident in the way men are when they've never had to question their place in the world. "Emily," he said, smiling like this was a reunion instead of an intrusion. "You look, well." "Daniel," she replied coolly. "You shouldn't be here." That's when he noticed me. His eyes flicked over, measured, dismissive. "And you are?" he asked. "I work here," I said evenly. Emily stepped forward before he could say more. "This is my colleague," she said. Not lying. Not telling the truth either. "What do you want?" Daniel laughed softly. Straight to business. Still the same. His gaze hardened. "I want to talk. Alone." "No," she said immediately. That word, no, clearly wasn't one he was used to hearing from her. Daniel folded his arms. "You left without a real conversation." "We had plenty," she replied. "You just didn't listen." He scoffed. "I listened. You chose your company over your marriage." Something in Emily snapped. "I chose myself," she said. For the first time. His eyes narrowed. Then, deliberately, he looked at me again. "So this is about him." Daniel folded his arms. "You left without a real conversation." "We had plenty," she replied. "You just didn't listen." He scoffed. "I listened. You chose your company over your marriage." Something in Emily snapped. "I chose myself," she said. For the first time. His eyes narrowed. Then, deliberately, he looked at me again. "So this is about him." I felt Emily stiffen beside me. "This isn't about anyone else," she said. "It's about us being wrong for each other." Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You don't walk away from 15 years without a reason," he said. "And you don't start glowing like this without one either." I expected anger. What I didn't expect was pain. "I supported you," he said quietly. "I stood in the background while you built your empire." Emily's voice softened, but didn't bend. "You resented me for it," she said. "Every success made you smaller, and instead of growing with me, you tried to shrink me." Silence stretched between them. The truth finally spoken aloud. Daniel sighed and turned fully toward me. "So," he said, "are you the reason she stopped coming home?" I felt every muscle in my body tense. "No," I answered. "I'm the reason she remembered she deserved peace." Emily's breath caught. Daniel stared at me, then laughed sharply. You think this lasts, he said. She doesn't need saving. She needs control. And the moment you stop fitting into her life. She doesn't control me, I interrupted. And she doesn't need me to save her. Emily stepped closer to me, her shoulder brushing mine. I chose him, she said calmly. Not because he was there, but because he sees me without wanting to own me. Daniel looked at her like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. Come home, he said suddenly. We can fix this. Emily shook her head. There is no home anymore, she said. There's just history, and I'm done living in it. His face hardened. You'll regret this. She met his stare without flinching. Maybe, she said. But regret is better than disappearing. Security shifted uncomfortably nearby. Daniel noticed. He straightened his jacket, pride wounded but intact. Good luck, he said, to me. You'll need it. Then he walked out. The revolving door swallowed him whole. Emily stood frozen, staring at the space he'd left behind. I didn't touch her. I waited. Finally, she exhaled shakily. I thought seeing him would make me weak, she said. And? It made me free. She turned to me, eyes glossy. Thank you for standing there, she said. For not speaking over me. For not rescuing me. I knew you didn't need that, I replied. She smiled, small, real. Walk me home, she asked. This time, there was no hesitation. That night, in her apartment, we sat on opposite ends of the couch, quiet but connected. No drama. No urgency. Just two people who had survived their pasts. She rested her head on my shoulder. I lost a marriage, she said softly. And found yourself, I replied. She nodded. And maybe, she added, something new. I wrapped my arm around her, not possessive, not afraid. Just present. The hardest decisions don't announce themselves. They arrive quietly, disguised as opportunity. 3 days after Daniel walked out of the lobby, Emily received the call that would change everything. I was in my apartment when her name lit up my phone. Can you come over? She asked. Her voice was steady, but I knew her well enough now to hear the strain beneath it. I'm on my way. She was standing by the window when I arrived, Chicago spread beneath her like a map she'd already conquered once. They offered me the New York role, she said without turning around. I froze. The New York role. Chief Operating Officer. National visibility. A fast track to the top of the industry. Emily, I said slowly, that's everything I've worked for, she finished. Since I was 26. She turned to face me, eyes sharp, searching. And it comes with conditions. My chest tightened. What kind of conditions? They want a clean slate, she said. No internal complications. No rumors. No relationships that raise eyebrows. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. Silence filled the room. Finally, she sat down across from me. I won't ask you to wait, she said. I won't ask you to move. I won't ask you to sacrifice anything. I studied her face, the strength, the exhaustion, the honesty. But you're asking me to disappear, I said quietly. She flinched. I'm asking myself whether I can keep choosing power over connection, she corrected. And whether that choice still defines who I am. She looked down at her hands. All my life, I believed love was something you earned after success, she said. Now I'm realizing success doesn't mean much if there's no one to share the quiet with. I took a breath. So what scares you more? I asked. Losing the job, or losing us? Her answer came immediately. Losing myself again. I love you, she said suddenly. The words hung in the air, raw, unprotected. I didn't plan to, she continued. And I don't need you to say it back just because it's convenient. I moved closer, kneeling in front of her. I love you too, I said. But love doesn't mean shrinking. For either of us. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but relief. I don't want to be the woman who leaves every time something real appears, she whispered. And I don't want to be the man who asks you to give up your dreams, I replied. She nodded slowly. Then we need a third option, she said. The board meeting was brutal. Emily didn't tell them no. She told them her terms. She accepted the role, but not immediately. She proposed a 6-month transition, with a public ethics disclosure, departmental restructuring, and my transfer to a different division under a separate executive. No secrecy. No favoritism. No hiding. When she finished, the room was silent. One board member leaned forward. You're willing to risk the offer, for transparency? Emily didn't hesitate. I'm willing to risk everything, she said, for a life I don't have to apologize for. The vote passed, narrowly. When she walked out of that room, her hands were shaking. But her spine was straight. That night, she came to my apartment, not as my boss, not as a woman in crisis. But as someone choosing us without abandoning herself. We cooked dinner together. Burned the pasta. Laughed too loudly. Later, sitting on the couch, she rested her head on my chest. For the first time, she said, I didn't win by losing something else. I kissed her forehead. This is what balance looks like, I said. She smiled. And it's terrifying, she added. Good, I replied. That means it matters. 6 months later, her office moved to New York. Mine stayed in Chicago, remote collaboration, frequent travel, shared weekends. Not perfect. But honest. On my door. Not because she had nowhere to go. But because she knew exactly where she belonged. I won't always choose the easy path, she said. I won't ask you to, I replied. She slipped her hand into mine. Then let's choose each other, she said, even when it's hard. And this time, I didn't hesitate.